If you're a first time or second time founder, or you're a first time marketing manager or CMO, or just any business leader at all who is engaging with a creative team or is undertaking a creative project, both with an external team and or an external team, there is one reason why your creative project is probably going to fail or is in the process of failing and you're so frustrated. And no, that is not because the team isn't good enough or only because they don't have the right budget or the right tools. That is a part of the reason. But the bigger reason why your creative project is probably struggling right now or will struggle, guaranteed, is a lack of leadership. I know leadership is a big word. You've probably heard a ton of things this week about leadership, but as it pertains to creative projects, as it pertains to making sure your branding work or your website design or your product design or your marketing design is done, there are three main things that I have found is really, really important, or things that you could consider key elements of leadership in a creative project, right? The first thing is, what is the vision that you're trying to put into the world? It's easy for founders to have this really big vision for themselves and the things that they want to do, but somehow when it comes to their creative projects, they aren't able to clearly communicate what the vision is to the teams that they are working with. Now, the thing you have to understand about vision is that your creative vision is not going to be independent of your business vision. So if you do not have a very clear goal or very clear vision for the business, it's going to be hard for you to determine what that creative output is going to do for that bigger vision. So I always tell the founders that we work with, whatever creative vision we're going to come up with has to be in alignment with your business vision. So unless you can tell me very, very clearly what your business vision is and what you're trying to accomplish, there is very little we can do on the creative front to help you achieve that vision. Even if we try, we are going to fail. All the money you spend is going to feel like a waste because we are not working towards a specific goal. So the very first thing, in my opinion, before you undertake any creative project at all, is for you to have a very, very clear vision of what you're trying to achieve and how this creative project is going to help you fit into that vision. Now, this is an exercise on its own, and there are a lot of resources out there. But one of the books or resources I would recommend if you're a founder and you're like, hey, I don't think I know what that is a book called Playing to Win by Roger Martins. It's probably my favorite book on strategy, and it makes it very, very clear how you can define what your strategy is going to be. But the very first thing I want you to know is you need a very clear vision for your business, for the website, for the app, for the branding that you're trying to do. Now, if you're working with a great team, they can help you craft or refine, not craft, they can help you refine some of that vision, right? I cannot create a vision for you. Trust me, we've tried. We've gotten on projects where the founder comes in, we think we understand what it is that they're trying to do, and we try to help them craft a vision. It never really works at the end of the day, no matter how cool the thing that we create is. At the end of the day, it will be our job as an agency or as a creative service provider or as a creative partner to help you refine what that vision is, right? To help you refine your business goals into a creative vision that we can execute towards the execution of that goal. By the end of the day, if you don't have that vision, it's not going to work. So the first thing is you need to have a clear vision of what you're trying to achieve for any creative project, for any given project. Thing number two, you have to be able to communicate that vision clearly. So here's the biggest problem with founders and business owners and leaders when it comes to communication. You have one foot in the future and one foot in the present. For very good reason. It is a part of your job to be able to have one foot in the future and one foot in the present. It is your baby, it's your business, you spend your entire life thinking about it, you're obsessed about it, you know what it looks like in 10 years. But newsflash, if I'm the creative service provider and I'm the partner, especially if we haven't worked together for a really long time, I don't really know what that 10-year vision is like. I don't understand it like you do, right? So you have to know that you are ahead of me in terms of what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Now, your job when it comes to communicating your vision is to be able to work backwards, reverse engineer, and refine that vision for me into a form that I can execute on today. And outside of creative projects, this is a big problem when it comes to founders and leaders and working with their teams, period, right? It's always hard to be able to connect the dots between the future vision and what needs to be done today. But that is one of the biggest and most important skill you need when it comes to communicating with your team and getting them to be effective, is refining what it is that they have to do today. So as much as you would love for every single person in your team to be tapped into a deep understanding of what that big vision is, not everybody can do that, right? So you have to make sure that you're able to work with them to refine what it is that you're trying to do in the now. We worked on a project recently for like one of our biggest clients. Really, really awesome project. 18 months. We did everything from brand to product design to website. And when it came to the mobile app design specifically, we spent 3 months designing an onboarding experience. 3 whole months designing an onboarding experience, only to scrap it. Right? Everybody was frustrated because it took a lot of time and iteration. Now, the problem there was the founder in question was trying to shoot for a very, very big vision for the future that we didn't clearly understand, so we couldn't advise on what to do in the best possible way for the short term. And everything we came up with wasn't enough, wasn't good enough, because it just wasn't tying into that big vision. Now, after 3 months of execution, he was actually able to refine that thing down for us in a way that we can now tell him, oh, if this is what you're really trying to do, then this is the approach that we need to take. Right? So I've seen a lot of projects waste money and time because the founders are in the future and their teams are in the present. And there is a lack of communication between those two states. Right? So here's the thing I want to advise when it comes to communication. Understand that you are always in the future, right? And do not expect your team to be there with you. And always know that it's your responsibility to refine and scope what it is that has to be done in the now to be able to attain that long-term future. Right? Without doing that, you're going to confuse your team a lot. You're going to confuse your creative services partners. And no matter how brilliant or creative the things that you're trying to produce is, you are never going to be able to achieve the results that you want, and you will feel like the relationship isn't working simply because there is a lack of alignment. So the second thing when it comes to effectively executing any creative project or effectively executing any project period is for you to have very, very clear communication on what your vision is. Now, the third thing is one that most people actually think is the one that most people try to spend time on, but even that we don't tend to do well. The third thing is you have to enable execution. So first, you've had a vision, right? Clear vision. Second, you've been able to communicate that vision clearly to the teams you're working with in a way that they can understand and execute in the now. Third, you have to enable execution of the vision that you just defined. It's not good enough to just give them the vision or communicate it to them. You have to enable execution. Now, see, every creative project, especially, is a collaboration between the creative services partner or the creative team and the business function, right? We have the chops to understand what will make users click, what will make them feel a certain emotion and all those different things. But you have the business insight. You understand what needs to happen on the business side. And at the end of the day, every successful creative execution or creative output has those two components. It has the business component, it has a creative component. And it has to be a collaborative exercise, right? And that collaboration requires you to have some specific inputs that enables execution, that enables us to do what we need to do. And here are some of the core areas where you as a founder or you as a business manager or CMO or whomever can enable the creative team to be able to execute properly, right? The first thing is give them the budget that they need. I know nobody likes to talk about this. Nobody likes to talk about money, and it's the biggest point of contention in every single project. But the truth of the matter is that you can't do things without making the right investment. Every single creative project requires people, tools, resources to be able to execute right. And the cardinal thing that comes to play as far as the acquisition of those resources go is people, right? And people are expensive. And to get people, you need money. So the first thing that you have to do to enable execution is to give the appropriate budget or change the scope to suit the budget that you have, which is why communication of vision is important, right? But you can't want a 5-star meal on a fast food budget. Like, it just doesn't work, right? So if you're dealing with your team, level with them, make them understand, hey, this is where we're trying to go. This is our constraint. This is our budget. And then they can tell you how they can execute to get you to that same goal, even if your budget is not enough. But if your scope and your budget are mismatched, you can never get anything done. So that's the first thing. Thing number 2 is give access to people and to information. Like I said, this is a collaborative exercise. So unless you're able to give your team access to the information that they need and the people that they need, nothing is going to happen. Their creative capacity is limited as far as information and people access is concerned. So sometimes some founders or some teams can say, hey, let's do the project. They're even willing to give you the money, but then you don't have access to the people, you don't have access to the resources you need, right? So whatever NDAs you have to put in place, whatever documents, whatever it is that you have to do it. But make sure that your team, both internal or external, have access to the people that they need and the resources and information that they need to be able to execute the project that they have. Another thing is time. No creative project is going to work without the proper input of time, right? Like, agencies are not magicians. Creative service partners are not magicians, right? We can try, we can believe, or sometimes even posture like we are, but the truth is we aren't. And we are going to need your time as the business owner to give us inputs to be able to deliver. So if you aren't available, and if you aren't able to give us the time that we need, we can't be able to do anything. So it's extremely important that you give your creative service partners or your agency the time that they need to execute the vision that you've set at hand. And the last thing is clear feedback. And I mean clear feedback. This could be an entire video by itself. But without your team knowing what is working, what is not working, why is working, why is not working, and what could be better, no progress can be made. So when it comes to enabling execution, you have to, 1, provide the right budget for the project. 2, give access to the people and the information that is necessary to execute the project. 3, make ample time to work with the team to get to your desired outcome or the vision that you've set, right? And make sure that you give proper feedback, right? So if you're on a creative project right now, I want you to go back and ask yourself these 3 questions. Question number 1, do I or do we as a team or as a business have a very clear vision of what this creative project is going to do for us, right? First, do we have a clear business vision? And then how is this creative project going to fit into that vision, right? Without that, nothing is going to work. Number 2, how am I able, or how have I been able to clearly communicate what this vision is to the team that I'm planning to work with or I'm working with? Do they understand what the long term is? And do they understand what they have to do in the short term to be able to get to that long-term result? If that is not there, things can work. And 3, am I enabling execution by giving them access to the right amount of funds that they need, to the right people, to the right information, giving them access to my time, and providing adequate feedback? In my opinion, these are the 3 things that I feel like every leader has to do, just in general, quite frankly, but when it comes to executing a specific creative project. And if you're able to do these things, you actually stand a higher chance of your creative project succeeding than it failing. And I want you to go out, answer these questions today, because I think it's going to help you.